The public spotlight heated up again, and this time it was not because of a big comeback, nor because of the international awards that they returned mercilessly. In fact, the world's attention is focused on something much smaller, a brief moment, almost invisible, but powerful enough to shake the emotions of millions of fans. Yes, Park Jimin and Jeon Jungkook are again the center of a heated debate. The question is simple, but the impact is extraordinary. What exactly is the meaning of their attitude? It all started from a video clip that was widely spread on social media. In a matter of hours, the clip has been watched millions of times. In it, a brief interaction between Jimin and Jungkook can be seen. There was no clear dialogue, no official statement, not even any excessive gestures. Only the gaze, small gestures, and expressions that, for some people, feel too deep to be considered a coincidence. For old fans, moments like this are not new. Jimin and Jungkook are known to have a very close relationship since their debut with BTS. They are often seen joking, supporting each other, even sharing emotional moments on stage or behind the scenes. However, this time it feels different. There is something that cannot be explained with simple words, something that makes many people stop for a moment and wonder. Speculation immediately popped up. Some fans believe that this is just another proof of their sincere friendship. They see it as a form of attention, a language without words that can only be understood by two people who have been through many things together. However, not a few have seen more than that. They began to build narratives, connect pieces of old moments, and create theories that are getting wilder and wilder. On the other hand, foreign media does not stay silent. Several entertainment portals began to bring up this topic as a headline, discussing every small detail of the video. From the direction of the eyes, the position of the hands, to the duration of the interaction, everything is analyzed as if it were a clue to something bigger. In fact, some call it the most ambiguous moment in the history of Jimin and Jungkook's interaction. However, in the midst of the hustle and bustle of speculation, there is one thing that is often forgotten. They are human. Jimin and Jungkook are not just public figures or objects of non-stop analysis. They are two individuals who have emotions, relationships, and personal dynamics that cannot always be understood by outsiders. What is seen on the screen does not necessarily reflect the whole story. Interestingly, some fans started calling for something different. They asked the public to stop speculating too much. They remind that not all moments have to have a hidden meaning, that sometimes a look is just a look, and a gesture is just a simple form of attention. However, this voice is often drowned in the midst of a wave of theories and assumptions that continue to grow. This phenomenon actually reflects something bigger about the current fandom culture. In the digital era, every second can be recorded, analyzed, and distributed in an instant. The boundary between reality and interpretation is getting thinner. What used to be just a personal memory can now be a global discussion in minutes. And in the case of Jimin and Jungkook, this is seen very clearly. It cannot be denied that their relationship does have its own charm. There is warmth, honesty, and closeness that is hard to fake. Maybe that's what makes every little interaction of them feel so meaningful to many people. However, precisely because of that, every small movement also becomes vulnerable to excessive interpretation. As time goes by, this debate has not shown any signs of easing. Every day, a new analysis, a new point of view, and of course, a new theory emerges. Some try to find the answer, while others actually enjoy the mystery. And in the midst of all that, Jimin and Jungkook continue to carry out their activities as usual, as if this storm of discussion never existed. Perhaps, in the end, the question, what does it mean, will never really be answered. And maybe it's not necessary, because sometimes what makes a moment so strong is not the clarity of the meaning, but the feeling it leaves behind. A feeling that is difficult to explain, but real is felt by those who witness it. Obviously, one thing is undeniable. Jimin and Jungkook once again managed to attract the attention of the world, not with big words or spectacular actions, but with something much simpler, a small moment that holds so many possibilities. And maybe that's where the real power lies. But it was at that point that things became more complicated. When some people began to try to forget and consider that moment as a normal thing, another video clip reappeared to the surface, as if prolonging the fire that had not yet been extinguished. This time, not just one point of view, but several recordings from different directions that show details that were not previously seen. And strangely, the more you watch, the harder it is to ignore that there is something that feels different. Some fans are starting to notice the pattern. They reopened the old archive, digging up the previous moments involving Park Jimin and Jimin Jungkook. From concerts, live broadcasts, to behind the scenes that may have been considered normal, now everything seems to have a red thread that connects each other. The gaze that was too long, the reaction that was too fast, to the silence that felt the loudest, all began to be put together into a narrative that was increasingly difficult to ignore. This is where the debate begins to change direction. If previously it was only limited to, what does it mean? Now the question develops into something much deeper. Have we been missing something all this time? A question that slowly shifts the way many people view their relationship. And as often happens in the fandom world, once one theory gets attention, other theories will appear nonstop, collide with each other, strengthen each other, or even argue with each other. Not a few are starting to compare this latest moment with their interaction in the past. Some say that Jimin Jungkook's expression looks more serious than usual, as if he is hiding something that cannot be expressed. On the other hand, Park Jimin is considered to show a smoother response, but that's what makes him feel deeper. A dynamic that is difficult to explain, but so clearly felt for those who pay close attention to it. Meanwhile, foreign media again messed the atmosphere with increasingly bold analysis. Some even began to associate this moment with industrial pressure, personal relationships, to the possibility of conflict that was never revealed to the public. Sensational titles appear, provoking emotions as well as curiosity. And without realizing it, the narrative that was originally simple now turned into something much more complex and full of speculation. But in the midst of all that noise, there was one moment that actually made many people silent. A short clip that shows Park Jimin as if he is holding something. Whether it's emotions, words, or maybe an indescribable feeling. At the same time, Jimin Jungkook looking at his head in an unusual way. Not just looking, but as if trying to make sure of something. The interaction only lasted a few seconds, but the impact was so big. Many say that it is the silence in that moment that is the most noisy. There is no dialogue, no dramatic action, but there is an energy that is difficult to explain. It was as if the two of them were speaking in a language that could not be heard by anyone but themselves. And perhaps that's where the mystery lies, something that can't be translated, but can be felt. On the other hand, some fans are starting to feel tired. Not because they don't care, but because the intensity of speculation is getting out of control. They began to question whether all of this was still about Jimin and Jungkook, or had turned into a reflection of hope, imagination, and public interpretation only. A reflection that is quite touching because behind all theories and analysis, there is a reality that is often forgotten. Because in the end, the relationship between Park Jimin and Jimin Jungkook is their own. Whatever happens behind the scenes, whatever they feel, it is not something that must always be explained to the world. And maybe that's why moments like this feel so powerful, because they give the public a little gap to see something more humane, more real, but still full of mystery. And when all the voices began to subside, when all the theories had been discussed and debated, one thing remained: unanswered curiosity. A feeling that keeps hanging, makes many people play the video again, trying to find details that may have been missed, hoping to find an answer that may actually never actually exist. Is this just a coincidence? Or is there something deeper that has not been revealed? No one really knows. But one thing is for sure, this moment has left a mark that is not easily erased. A trace that will continue to be talked about, analyzed, and maybe remembered as one of the most confusing and memorable moments in BTS's journey. And maybe, at some point when everything feels calmer, we will look back at this moment in a different way. Not as a mystery that must be solved, but as a reminder that even in a world full of highlights, there are still things that cannot be fully explained. A small space where emotions speak louder than words, and that's where, perhaps, the real truth lies.